You know you're sinning, stealing the land, and you know you're sinning, stealing the land, and you know you're sinning all that day. Oh, sinner man, you ought to stop lying. Oh, sinner man, you ought to stop lying. Oh, sinner man, you ought to stop lying all on that day. Oh, no more jailhouse, where you gonna run to? No more jailhouse, where you gonna run to? No more jailhouse, where you gonna run to? All on that day. Oh,
as we stand here today, calling on Premier McGuinty and Attorney General Chris Bentley to call off the OPP at Tyendinaga and to drop all charges against all Indigenous political prisoners, including those at TMT, KI, RDOC, Six Nations, Grassy Narrows. We are also here today to call on all non-Indigenous people to no longer remain idle, to stand up and support both in words and in action the movement of Indigenous struggle and resistance that's going on in this land right now.
Honored by all of us. The facts of this case are that a woman, her mother, a grandmother, and a 9-year-old girl were under attack by a known racist who approached them wielding a baseball bat. And when Shawn Brant came upon that scene, this woman and this little girl was crying and she was pleading for protection. And Shawn told me this morning, he said, you know what? I would be happy, I would be honored to serve 10 years if in fact I had done an assault and I had had to do that to defend this little girl and defend her mom. But the fact is, I didn't assault anybody. That woman and that grandmother and her child, they called the police themselves to have charges laid against this racist man who was wielding a baseball bat at them. In fact, no charges were laid against this man. And it's also a fact that people need to know that Shawn Brant, while he was in custody at that OPP office, was repeatedly told that they would slit his throat, that they would kill him, that they were going to do his family. And we all need to understand that is the context in which people are in jail.
the truth will set us free. The truth will set us free. The truth will set us free someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe the truth will set us free someday.
In the early days of Caledonia, Julian Fantino made a statement about how he was going to make sure that the law was upheld and the law was enforced. Now you might think that that would mean that the OPP would ensure that the treaty rights of the Six Nations people would be respected. But of course, that isn't what Julian Fantino meant, because in the final analysis, Julian Fantino is the hired muscle of those people who have been oppressing and exploiting First Nations people for a couple of centuries and who stole their land in the first place. Up there, they like to talk about the rule of law a lot. They like to talk about the Canadian tradition of the rule of law. Whenever they go anywhere else in the world, they like to point the finger and say, we're so much better because we base our system here on the rule of law. I want to say that the events of the last few days confirm the fact that their rule of law is nothing more than a sanctioned form of theft and violence against First Nations people. It's what it is now and it's what it's always been. And their negotiation consists of decades and decades of stalling, while corporations come in and rob the land and plunder the land and pollute the environment and poison communities. This is their system of their rule of law. Their rule of law is disgusting hypocrisy and it needs to be condemned.
Give back the land, we shall not be moved just like a tree, standing by the water. We We shall not be moved. We shall not. Just like a tree that's standing by the water, we shall not be moved.